we thank you so much for this time. We thank you for Ray for his ministry. We thank you for each student that is here and those who were unable to come. We ask your blessing upon them. You know their needs, you know their talents. We pray that, above all, that they will dedicate their talents to you in service, and that you will bless them. In your name we pray.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Anyone know how many blind people it takes to change a light bulb? Oh, come on now. What do we need light bulbs for?
Some snacks. Find a seat. Have some snacks. Find a seat.
Yeah, and a blind man walked into a room with apparently there were a bunch of women that were changing, but it's okay. I'm not looking. As you may be thinking about in the world of business, you will be encountering many disabled people. It's perfectly normal as many of us. In fact, most of you will become disabled as you age eventually at some point. It's important to know how to interact with the disabled in the world of business for many reasons. One is economics. If you diss someone who is disabled, they will tell their friends and their families, and suddenly a whole bunch of people won't be showing up at your business. And they will not be nice enough to tell you why, usually. But the most important reason is that Jesus says that whatever you do to the least of these, you do to him. And so every day, Jesus will be walking into your place of business several times. Jesus will be working at your business. Jesus will be applying for jobs at your business. And how you treat each person will show how you treat Jesus. And this is why I want to share with you these thoughts. I want us to keep a couple things in mind. As I share these things in interacting with the disabled, I want you to keep two things in mind. The first thing is unity. The point of this, and you know, look at the handout that I'm giving you, is not that we're better than you, though maybe we are. But we need to work together. We all have a place in society. And probably Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech today, he would include the disabled as well as Catholics and Protestants and blacks and whites and everybody else. He probably would. It's just times are different now, and things are a little even more open than they were before. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is the importance of humor. I don't care how much I tell you today, you're going to make some horribly embarrassing mistakes around the disabled. Get over it. It can be funny. Learn to laugh. Just be humble. Apologize, laugh, have fun. And it's very important because if you're too nervous, you're going to make even more mistakes. It's going to shut down your powers of intuition. And you're not going to be able to think straight, so it's better to just relax. You're going to flub up now and then, have fun, laugh, move on, and just enjoy life and learn from it, and maybe at least try not to make the same mistake the next time it comes up. All right? Now, basically, I have set up an acronym. I love word games, and it spells the word share. And each letter in the word share shows something that we need to do to interact with the disabled. Now, when I'm preaching this as a sermon, I'll actually go into Bartimaeus in Mark 10. And I won't do that as much. This is a religious school, so I might mention a couple things really briefly, but I'm not going to do it the same way when I preach. This is going to be lighter, a little more fun, a little more humor, hopefully. And we can just have fun. Then afterward, I'll be taking questions. And I'll instruct you at that point as to how we do that, since I'm not able to take hands. There is a proven technique for doing that I'll explain to you later. Okay, we see the word share, and the first letter of share is S. As I guess most of you know since you passed third grade. S stands for slow down, something that I probably need to remember when I'm speaking. But you're all college students, so you probably like things a little faster anyway. Jesus did slow down with Bartimaeus. He stopped the crowd so that he could talk with Bartimaeus, even though the crowd wanted Bartimaeus to shut up and not bother Jesus. It takes us a long time to do things without a disability. So when you have a disability, that slows the system down even more. I mean, you know how slow your computer works when something's slightly wrong in the hard drive. Everything slows down. I think of an example. It's there's times when my wife and I are going to potluck, or as some call pot faith. And there is cause for discussion concerning that name. And the people are trying to rush Sally through line. Now, let's get something straight here. Often Sally has to get food for not only herself, but me, and sometimes her disabled mother. Sally used to work as a waitress. So if anybody can throw food around at the speed of light, it would be her. So if she's not able to, there's definitely something wrong. Ever heard the saying, light a candle, don't curse the darkness? So if you think that we're moving too slowly, offer to help. It'll get things done a lot faster than if we have to stop what we're doing to justify why we're moving slowly. It seems like we are perpetually busy in this society. Either we are driving, eating, working, talking on a cell phone, or we're driving, eating, working, and talking on a cell phone all at the same time. You would agree, wouldn't you? And you're probably playing half a dozen video games while that's going on too, and answering a couple of emails, and balancing your portfolio, and whatever else you're trying to do. I don't know. It's none of my business. Business here anyway. Okay. That's the S for slow down. Now the H is for hearing, learning to listen. This is very important because they tell you customer's always right. Even if the customer is disabled, they're still always right. It's very important, even if you think you know what the person needs, to ask. I like that Jesus asked Bartimaeus, what would you like me to do for you? Jesus didn't just walk over and touch him and heal him. He said, what would you like me to do for you? I mean, Jesus knew, but Jesus gave Bartimaeus the opportunity to have the dignity to make a decision for himself. This is very important. I recognize that we may not be able to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning in a nursing home to make somebody a 4-course meal, though maybe we should, but we're not able to. So, fine. But can we at least give the person the freedom to choose whether or not they really want ketchup on their chocolate cake? Or as I said in one speech, chocolate on their ketchup cake, which might be just as much of a problem. One time I was returning from church in college. I went to college at Pacific Union College, near the Napa area, up in the wine country there in Northern California. And I was coming home from church, and suddenly this guy just threw his arms around me. This older gentleman just threw his arms around me. Like, what are you doing? Bear in mind, this is just an hour north of San Francisco. And I'm rather conservative, parochial, like, okay, what are you doing? Oh, I'm helping you across the street. But I'm not going across the street. Yes, that did actually happen. I'm good, but I don't even make stuff up like that. That really happened. The appropriate thing to do is to say, excuse me, sir or ma'am, may I help you? And then you see what they do. Isn't that what they tell you in the grocery store? I mean, you don't just go to someone's cart and throw a bunch of things in their cart you think they might need. They get to the checkout. Why is that bill $500? Oh, well, I'm sorry. I thought you might need all that stuff. I guess you don't? Oh, that's okay. We'll put it back. It's very important to ask, find out what people need, and listen to them when they say their needs. And listening also involves talking to the person with the disability, not to the person standing next to them. Jesus spoke directly to Bartimaeus. He didn't say, what does he want? He said, what would you like me to do for you? I've had it happen where maybe I'm going into the hospital for a procedure and the nurses are saying to the person with me, does he need a wheelchair? Now, first of all, the obvious problem with that is, number one, I can talk. Number two, my legs are fine. It's my eyes that don't work. And they keep asking, does he need a wheelchair? Does he need a wheelchair? I'm like going, shut up, I'm fine. Get your head adjusted. So, if my wife and I are in a restaurant and the waitress wants to ask her all the questions for me, the conversation might go something like this. Hello, what would he like to eat? Honey, what would you like to eat? I'll have spaghetti. He'll have spaghetti. What would you like on the spaghetti? Honey, what would you like on the spaghetti? I'll have marinara sauce. We'll have marinara sauce. And what would you like to drink? This English to English translation will get old very fast. But that's basically what you're doing when you do that, is demanding an English to English translation. Their English is just as good as yours. Well, we assume that it's, we assume that, but you should be able to say it, they can say it, the message should go fine. If you're speaking to a deaf interpreter, still speak as if to the person who is deaf, not to the interpreter. If you say, what does she want? The deaf interpreter will sign, what does she want? And the person who is deaf will sign back, I have no idea what she wants, but I know what I want. This is very important etiquette. And a lot of the things with helping disabilities in the business world is etiquette. It's not a matter of spending tens of thousands of dollars for a lot of high-tech equipment, though there are some things you can do for that. Most of them will be provided by the state in a lot of situations. A lot of it is just etiquette. Listening is good in any situation. Learning to hear. One time I was visiting another church at Sabbath school. This was before I lost my vision altogether. I still had limited vision though. And suddenly this teacher puts this big book in my lap. What's this? It's a song book. Yeah, I don't see very well. I'm not going to be able to really read the song book. Well, just try to. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to read. I've tried this before. It's not going to work. Yeah, well, just try. Was she the person who invented the term visually challenged? Like, I don't see because I don't try hard enough to see. I have two eyes that are prosthetic, $1,500 a pop, and they don't even work. But I guess if I try, they would. You need to listen to people. If a child is going to be stubborn like that, you're not going to be able to set them straight by forcing him anyway. Might as well just listen, customer's always right. Isn't that what they say? All right, the person says he's not able to do it, then we'll just do the best we can. I know my limits. I remember one time in high school, I had to have extra time on my chemistry tests because the test was in Braille. Braille reads slowly. And the questions were all multiple choice. And there were long answers in multiple choice. It took me the whole period just to read the test. I didn't know you could have long answer and multiple choice at the same time, but they figured it out. I simply explained to the teacher, I said, look, I am spending all my time here reading the exam, and I don't even have any time to think. May I please have extra time? He said, sure, take the test home and do it on your own time. Now, it would have been fine if he sent it home in a sealed envelope and have my parents return it back with a signature, but he just trusted me. But the point is, he listened. It was very important to listen. Especially if you're an upper manager and a disabled person has a complaint about something somebody did. And recognize it might just be ignorance, but you have to really listen and empathize. Even if it doesn't make sense to you, even if you don't understand, well, I don't understand why that offended him. It offended him. A lot of the things that offend you, I might not understand. But it's just, we come from different walks of life. And it's just part of who we are. So yeah, slow down here. The A is for adapt. As much as I don't want to admit it, we disabled people do require certain adaptations to be made so that we can function in society along with everybody else. The idea, though, is that we'll be able to give back enough so that it evens out, and it usually does. Adaptation often involves creative thinking and dialogue. Let me give you a couple examples of when it did not work so well. And these should be rather hilarious. They are to me. I lived through them. Recently, I had the opportunity to test some Bible software for blind accessibility. It's actually quite a racket. You get a PhD, you say, I'd like to test your software. Can I get a free copy? I'll write you an evaluation in a couple months. And I learn the thing inside and out. I spend my time on it. It's definitely work. And I write them an evaluation, I get a free copy of their software. And I noticed something really funny, is that the first time I did this for this company, my wife and I spent like an hour trying to figure out how to install the thing. We finally get it installed, and what's the first thing to appear on the screen? The user's guide. And what's the first thing in the user's guide? installation instructions, which of course I can read now with my screen reader that talks what's on the computer screen. So I emailed the company, and next time I was going to do their software, I said, would you please email me the user's guide section for installation instructions for your upgrade? They did, and I was able to install it without any help except I just had to have Sally type in the serial number. That's no problem. Though there are even ways they might be able to outsmart that, but and if they put it in the mail, they can email me the serial number just before, but that's no big deal. The point is, it took a lot less trouble. I had it up and running independently, and it worked great. Another thing that I really wonder about is this obsession with putting Braille on drive-through ATMs. Now, I don't know if any of you have thought this through, or driven this through, but it's an interesting phenomenon. First of all, you have to figure out how in the world am I even going to get to the drive-through ATM. Or I'd be waving my white cane out the front window of the car and beeping the horn really loud, and then I assuming I get there alive. The real problem is that, and they also have them often at gas stations. When's a blind person going to go to a gas station? But anyway, yeah, I need gasoline for my electronic seeing eye dog. Yeah. But so I'm punching in the Braille. The problem is though, the Braille only tells you what's on the keys. It does not tell you the prompts on the screen. So you're punching in a bunch of numbers, nothing's happening, it's beeping funny, so this alarm goes off, and this big truck arrives with these 3 hooded Homeland Security agents pick you up, throw you in the trunk. What did I do? You just gave $10,000 from the Andrews University School of Business to Al-Qaeda. Like, what? Well, yeah, you hit the donate to Al-Qaeda button, didn't you know? Well, okay, I realize that's a bit far-fetched, but I think you get the point. Now, I understand Chemical Bank here actually does have a little earphone jack, which I'll have to try sometime. It's supposed to help with that. But I remember when I was asking some banks about it before, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not able to do this because it doesn't read it to you. The teller is like going, what are you talking about? I had to demand to speak to the manager. And then they called the company on the phone and took care of it over the phone. It was really irritating because they wouldn't listen was the problem. So another one I want to show you, these are actually rather funny, is I was carrying a load of laundry in the dorm at Pacific Union College. And you know the trick where you wedge a basket between your body and the door, and then you reach around and open the door, and the friction holds the basket in place so it doesn't move? Yeah. It works really well until some well-meaning soul decides they're going to open the door for you without telling you. The blind have very good reflexes, and it's for this type of situation that we have them. Everything was safe, but I still had to say, that was nice of you. Would you please let me know next time you're going to do that? And I know we all say it's the thought that counts. Yeah, that's fine if somebody gives you a CD that you got last year. Or maybe you lost it, maybe you didn't like it, threw it away, and you need a second chance because it's really good. I don't know. But let's say I offer to park your car for you. Now, I realize I wouldn't do that. I'm not that crazy. But I'm crazy, but not that crazy. But let's say you're even crazier and you accept my offer. And I proceed to drive your car over your prize-winning rose bushes into your living room. I don't think it's the thought that counts is going to cut it. So let's go over some basic rules for dealing with the disabled. And these are on the handout, because everybody loves handouts, so you get one of these. When leading a blind person, let them take your arm at the elbow, just around the bicep area, for those of you anatomy nuts out there. And they walk a step behind you. Now you need to remember something, and this is very important. You have suddenly become twice as wide. And that telephone pole is not going to move out of the person's way. Now, I really think we should make telephone poles so they would move out of your way when you're walking down the sidewalk. But they don't, so we're stuck with that. When sitting a blind person in a chair, set the person's hand on the back of the chair. The rest follows. There is only one exception, and that is if it's a massage chair. Those things are built so crazy that you pretty much have to just sit in the thing and have them feel you to figure out how you're sitting in it, and then they can duplicate it. I'm studying massage therapy, and that's the best way I can figure out how to help a blind person in one of those things. But otherwise, with normal chairs, just put the hand on the back of the chair and you're fine. When you are done speaking with a blind person, please let the person know that you are done and that you are leaving the room. I've had many conversations, Anne, where I will be suspicious that, why isn't anybody responding? And I'll say something like, so what do you think of my plan for world peace? Well, how do you know it wouldn't work? You didn't stick around long enough to hear. And people complain about my social skills. Last I checked, it's rude to walk out on anybody during a conversation. Oh yeah, and while we're on the topic of social skills, may I remind you that the disabled live in a different world. We do things in many different ways. And I have been persecuted, punished, ridiculed, and shunned for missing social cues on a number of occasions. And if it happens in the business world, I just will not go back to that business again. Just honestly, because I don't want to get my feelings hurt. What? Who does? We can think of a situation that could come up. Let's say I'm eating at somebody's house, and I'm talking, I'm not paying attention to what's going on as much, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't know if they serve the food or not. Now, if I start feeling the plate, the hostess could get upset thinking I'm impatient. But let's say that I don't feel the plate, I just quietly wait, and the food has already been served. Well, now they're going to wonder if I like the food or not. So in other words, I can't win. If people are going to be thinking I'm up to something bad, then nothing I can do will fix that. So we need to just keep that in mind, that if you don't understand something, just ask, hey, Ray, I don't understand exactly, what did you mean by that? And then I'll explain it, and then you'll know that I'm a jerk. Or at least you'll know that. You won't wonder. Some other things, don't just touch a blind person without letting them know. I'll be at church and someone will grab my lapel, and I'm wondering if I'm supposed to do some sort of anti-chokehold restraint from self-defense or something. And, oh, I'm just adjusting your tie. Well, actually, my wife does that just fine, but thanks. Another one, and this is really, really, really important. I get really offended at this one. I'll let you know. Do not sexualize a situation where somebody will be helping a blind person or anyone with a disability. I was at a doctor's office, and they're supposed to be the best about avoiding this. And somebody was getting ready to have someone leave me back to get me weighed or something like that. And they're like, and now a pretty young lady is going to help you get weighed. I was very offended. Because that is inappropriate behavior. You do not do that in that type of business. And now I'm a massage therapist, and we're really, really frustrated about that type of stuff. Because you're going to have somebody dressed down and be naked under a sheet on a table. You've got to totally desexualize the situation so that it works. And it works. We've got good protocols. But you cannot have anybody messing around with anything. You've got to be basically over the top on everything. And so I'm very sensitive to that nowadays. If I go into business, someone does that, and now the pretty young girl is going to do your hair for you, I'll probably just walk out. Because it's just offensive. That's not why I'm there. I'm married. It often happens innocently, you don't think about it, but it's going to happen more with the disabled because they're going to be more situations where they need help. And so it's something just to think about and to remember. Another one is don't point. And it's that way. It's the blue one. The blue one is over there. Another one is don't play Guess Who. It was cute when I was 12 and I'm 37 and now I have a PhD, and it's just, I don't know. When I know who you are, everybody will know. You don't need to ask me. I'll hear you. Oh, John. And I'll say, oh no, I'm sorry, it's Mary. Oh, sorry, I need to work on that still. Do not pet a seeing eye dog on harness. Seeing eye dogs are considered, basically, they're like, yes, they're treated like people, but they're still animals. And animals mix up commands. And when they're on harness, they're at work. And if you pet them and play with them too much, what will happen is somebody will throw a frisbee, and the dog will lead a blind person over the fence to catch the frisbee. And you all understand, too, that if you're a business owner, you are required by law to admit people with seeing eye dogs into your business or they can sue your pants off. I'm just letting you know, it's true. We've had, even today, even a few years ago, we had people that they'll say, oh, you can't come with that dog. No, under U.S. law, if you're in the United States of America, you have to let them into the business with their seeing eye dog. It's required by law. So just want to make sure y'all know that, all right? It is the law. Now, the other side of it is that those dogs are so well trained that they'll be better mannered than most people's kids in your business. So if you're going to ban a dog, you should ban everybody's kids too. And most adults have pretty bad manners nowadays too. So that dog is just, in a restaurant, the dog is just sitting at the table, less messy than you or I will be in the restaurant. So just, in all fairness, they train those dogs to be really good, so you don't have anything to worry about. Okay. The other thing is true as far as accessibility in businesses. Braille on restroom doors does not take very long to set up. Braille menus in restaurants are nice, though I never use them. I always ask if they have them just to pick on them, but I never use them. They take too long. But having it on the internet's good because you can look it up if you're blind. Otherwise, just sit and just question and answer through. It's good to have the Braille on the doors. That way you can find your way. Okay, deafness. Don't yell. Yelling simply makes badly enunciated speech become loud, badly enunciated speech. And that's it. Just use good diction, clear lighting, good lip movement if the person reads lips, or deaf interpreter, or there's always texting and email, or handwriting, lots of things. Wheelchairs. Don't lean on a wheelchair. Get your own. Wheelchairs thought of as part of somebody's body, and you're not going to want someone leaning on your arm all afternoon, so please don't lean on their wheelchair all afternoon. They're out to just roll away and let you fall on the floor. One thing as well, when talking to someone in a wheelchair, be sure to maintain eye contact, recognizing that they may be lower than you because they're seated. And they do not want to have to go to a chiropractor to get the neck adjusted because they got a crick in the neck from pushing the head back to look you in the eye. And of course, we have issues of having automatic doors for wheelchairs, handicapped parking spaces, which, by the way, you should never park in unless you are handicapped or wish to become handicapped. Yeah, anyway, no, we wouldn't do it. But I have thought, though, that a great penalty for illegally parking a handicap spot would be they tie you to a wheelchair for a day. And then suddenly, how did I get into this building? Oh, the only entrance is in the back. Yeah, but the elevator's in the front. You have to go up some stairs to get to the elevator. Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh well. Actually, that kind of stuff does go on. I'm not joking. It does happen in places. Something I often tell you, though, is in churches, you have to, and it's important not only to have accessibility into the building, but also have a ramp up to the platform so that someone in a wheelchair can lead out in a worship service if they wanted to. And Jesus did do this with Bartimaeus. He healed him. He had Bartimaeus follow Jesus' voice. So that's very adapting. Okay, slow down here, adapt. The last two are a lot shorter. The R is for relate. Form a relationship. I don't just want to be someone's pet project that you help and then forget about. It's important to form a relationship. Get to know me. Ask how I'm doing. It is considered appropriate in America to ask an American about an obvious disability. Well, if it's obvious, deal with it anyway. Someone will come up to you and say, "Can I ask you a question?" Now, I know what the question is, but I'll play ignorant. All right, what's your question? How did you get that way? That way? Oh, well, I'm tall because my parents are tall. How did you get blind? Blind. Well, I filled out an application for the government and they gave it to me. Well, if you're not going to take me seriously asking the question, why should I take you seriously answering it? Well, the reality is, I lost my vision when I was 12 due to a degenerative birth defect known as Peters anomaly that finally climaxed when I was 12 and I lost my vision altogether. Don't stare at someone with a disability. As you may know, the typical response from mothers when people stare at their disabled children is, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we charge for that." It is appropriate to use things like visual metaphors around the blind, like "I see what you're saying, and I'm not that sensitive." And the other thing is to use humor. And we've been doing that some, but I'm going to tell you a couple of funniest things that have happened to me. one at someone else's expense and one at my expense. I do believe in putting others first, so we'll do the one at someone else's expense first. I was being seated on an airplane, and the flight attendant somehow felt like he'd introduced me to the plane. I don't know why. I mean, I'm nobody famous, but whatever. And so she said, "Hello, this is Ray. He'll be with you on this flight, and he's blind today." Today? All you gotta do is just go today, and this ripple of chuckles kind of moved up and down the cabin for a minute or so. The one that happened to me was, this is before I lost my vision. My mother was sick, and she wanted me to get her a can of 7-Up, because it helps with nausea. I go into the refrigerator, and I pull out the big green can. And does 7-Up still come in big green cans? I don't know, but it used to. Probably now it comes in little green cans that cost about twice as much. But it came in these big green cans, so I brought her the big green can. The only problem is that Alpo canned dog food also used to come in big green cans. My mom's like, "Please take that away, I don't want to look at dog food, I'm going to throw up." It actually still is rather funny to me. So down here, adapt, relate, and the E is to empower. Empowerment goes beyond simply helping someone with a disability and adapting. It means making it as if the person wasn't disabled at all. Jesus, after he related to Bartimaeus, built a relationship, made friends with him, he empowered him. He healed him. Well, now we may not exactly be able to do that, but we can come as close as we can. Illustrated with this disabled Daisy. Origami Daisy, I do origami for a hobby. And this is Daisy here, but she's disabled because how long is she going to last? There's no water source. She's just kind of there. I could just set her on the lectern here and a cute little Daisy, but so what? Well, we need to empower Daisy, and we will, with this gold vase. So we'll put the Daisy in the vase and lock the vase around the stem here, and I'll work on this while I'm talking because it takes a couple minutes to get a good lock in these things. And now the Daisy is empowered. That's how we need to be thinking about dealing with people. And by the way, somebody will get a paper Daisy after this. I don't know who. Probably Jen. Yeah, I should give it to Jen because she helped set this up. So probably Jen will get this around the time. I'm not quite done yet. It's the lips of the Daisy, the lips of the vase are kind of tight, but don't fix it. But anyway, this is an empowered flower. And there's some things that we do that often hinder empowerment, and you need to go over. One of them is the C word, can't. It's a 4-letter word, isn't it? C-A-N-T. It's a 4-letter word, right? We use it like one. You can't do that. Yes, I can. I had a teacher that kept doing that to me all the time in high school. So on a water ski trip, I water skied. What else would you do? And jumped off the top of a houseboat. And after that, all I had to do was open my mouth and she'd retract her statement. Yeah, I guess you can. Okay, here is an empowered Daisy. It's a little titsy, but you just get used to Daisy. But it'll work. Because I didn't realize I was going to use this, and I didn't make the stem straight yet, but it still should stay up okay. So Jen, whenever you want, you can come and get this. This is for you. This is an empowered flower. You remember that? And you can be empowered as well. Another one is using a disability as a handle. I once went into a hair salon and heard somebody say, "Oh, the blind guy's here." Now, the way I would deal with that now is I say, "Hello, this is the blind guy. What's your name?" My name is Ray, but just call me the blind guy. And this is the blind guy's wife. Would you say the Mexican man's here? Or would you say, "Oh, hey, the black lady's here"? If you want to keep your business open, or if you want to keep your head on your shoulders for more than 10 seconds, you won't. All right? So we've learned to be appropriate with race. Let's get it with disabilities. Unless you're a firefighter and you need to say, "Oh, there's a blind man trapped in that burning building," that might be appropriate. But generally, you don't need to say, "Oh, the blind guy's here." Why not my name? I don't want to be known by what you have and I don't. Another one has to do with, and this is a business issue, it's the issue of bullying in our schools. Because kids will be mean on your premises, in your business. And if you're running a school, believe me, we learn nothing from Columbine, I'll tell you that much. just talking to people last year, and disabled kids are still being picked on in school. People will leave all the lockers open so a blind person will bump into them. Those kids from Columbine died for nothing. I'll tell you that much. I know a bit crass, but you got to deal with the issue of bullying, or as I call peer abuse. And God calls it a sin, by the way. Just to be kind to one another. I had problems in high school. I went to a Christian school, and I had to dress down for PE, and I couldn't use the combination locks in the lockers because they were visual. So I had to set my pants up on top of the lockers and hope they'd be there afterward, and often they weren't. And it took a female teacher to threaten to storm the locker room before kids were trying to give them back to me. Now, I don't know what Bible text they were using to justify this. All I know is that my Bible says in Deuteronomy 27:18 that there is a curse on those who cause the blind to stray out of the path. I didn't make it up. I'm just telling you about it, protect everybody. And they say school prepares people for the real world. In the real world, what would happen if you went to your boss and pulled his pants down and gave him a wedgie? Okay. All right, what would happen? How long would you keep your job? How long would you keep your freedom? How long would you keep your financial base after being sued? And of course, some people in the real world won't take you to jail. They'll shoot you or stab you for stuff like that. So is that the world we want to train our kids for? No. So let's start early on and discourage this type of behavior. So how do we empower? Well, one way is to help someone learn a new skill. Like someone shows you a route to the store, I will use that route, and they'll feel like they made a difference. Helping people become independent. I was shopping for a belt once for my pants, and we found a reversible belt. But the problem was, how do you know which side is the casual side and which side is the formal side? Well, the store attendant looked it over and found that there was a little knob, a little notch on one side of the buckle. There was not on the other side of the buckle. Well, I could just remember which side the notch was supposed to be on. That's no problem. I'm used to that. And there we had it. But empowerment isn't just simply taking care of customers. More disabled people are likely to shop at your business if they have money to shop at your business. And that means getting them the J word, jobs. We have technology for the disabled to do all kinds of jobs. I have a computer that reads books to me and talks. With a Braille display, I can feel it and get it all together there. The Department of Rehabilitation, or I believe it's Michigan Commission for the Blind in Michigan, they will often do things like pay half of somebody's wage for a couple months if they're disabled so your company can see that they can do their job. They'll do things like that. Someone who's disabled comes to you for an interview, take them seriously. Find out what their abilities are. If anything, test them. Find, okay, let's see how you can do that. We'll tell you what, let's try it out here. Bring your computer and we'll give you some work to do, and here's a sample accounting problem, let's see how you can handle it. That's fine. I'm willing to do a song and dance. Just give me a microphone and a floor. The problem is that often, you know the deck's stacked against you, but most of the time people won't even let you sit at the card table. That's actually what it is. I sat through interviews and people just wish I wasn't even there. And now I'm opening up my own massage therapy business. I don't have to worry about that because I'm doing my own thing. And there's very few people that don't think a blind person can do massage. Come on. In the Orient, that's pretty much what they do, at least throughout history. So it's no big deal. But I still am set up to be academic and eventually to teach and things like that. But in the meantime, I am building an empire elsewhere. So I don't have to worry about this stuff. But it's something to keep in mind when you're an employer. You're going to have the opportunity for disabled employees. Now, I will tell you something too. It looks really good for your business to have disabled people on your payroll. It looks good for the community. Because people will be writing newspaper articles. Oh, we have a blind accountant in this business. The newspaper will want to cover the story, and your business will be flashed all over the news. Believe me, it can benefit you in many ways. Another way you can help empower the disabled is by educating them. Once I spoke at a fire department, and I asked them, would you mind showing me one of your fire engines? It took half an hour for them taking a tour. They took me up on top and feel all the apparatus. It was really cool. There may be a place for doing that in your business, helping someone understand these types of things. Another way you can do it, let's get these co-curriculars passed around. The last way you can empower the disabled is helping fund organizations that make a difference. I work for Christian Record Services for the Blind, or national camps for blind children. And where blind kids often get beat up in school, you go to a blind camp, you're treated like anyone else. They had me downhill skiing at winter camp once. They had me teaching origami to other blind people. I think the origami teaching was more difficult than downhill skiing. I was finding blind people that spent most of their lives in adult foster care environment, people making all the decisions for them. This camp was the only breath of fresh air they had. And we obviously can't ask them to pay for it, so we get donations from people. Now, I know that you're poor students, we understand that. But you know what, though? If everybody I spoke to just gave $3, that would make a big difference. Excuse me. So I would encourage you to think what you can do. Only $1 or $2? Fine. That's $1 that wouldn't have been donated otherwise. And what will happen is someone near you will see you giving $1, and they'll say, oh, you know what, I think I can do that too. And then one of their friends will say, oh, you know what, I can do more than that. And pretty soon you have $100 given, and it's your responsibility because you started it. So it actually does add up and make a difference. So the 5 things I need to remember are to slow down, to hear, to adapt, to relate, and to empower. And with that, I got about 5 minutes to take questions, so I can do that. I'd like to answer some questions from any of you on this subject. And what we'll do is, since I obviously do not see hands, we're going to use the tried and tested method in amateur radio, where you simply say your name. And then I simply respond to you saying your name. It works great. Let's try it. Who has a question you'd like to ask? Anything you ever wanted to know, you can now ask it.
Judy.
All right.
Was it hard for you to get ready to actually do stuff by yourself when you couldn't see anymore?
Well, the reality is, because I grew up visually impaired, I was kind of used to the idea of being disabled. So it was simply a matter of, okay, one more thing to deal with now. Because it was already in my culture. But obviously I had to learn some new skills. But it was kind of within reach, because I was already like, okay, this could happen, and I'm already adapting. I never saw that well anyway, so. Any other questions?
Hey, my name is Jerry.
All right.
Once in a while, I have the student coming to my office with a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I try to pull the chair, open the door, and escort him to the parking lot.
Uh-huh.
And most of the time, they say to me, oh, you are really thoughtful, really caring. I appreciate that so much. But once in a while, I got a bump, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, no, can you treat me a bit normally? I can pull the chair myself, I can open the door myself.
Mm-hmm.
That, would you please let me do it myself?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I know for sure that people really need extra care or
You ask.
Yeah, or
You say, hey, would you like me to get the door for you here?
yeah. Sometimes I say, okay, how can I help you? But
Yeah.
you know, sometimes they just say, you know, looks like I can do it myself.
In which case, then let them shine.
Mhm.
And it just depends on the situation. Some people need that. Some people, you know, it doesn't matter. A lot of it depends on the person. That's what you ask. Hey, I can get the chair pulled out for you. And then if they say, oh, don't worry about it, then don't worry about it. Remember, customer is always right. Even if the customer is disabled. Any other questions?
I have a question. My name is Anna.
All right.
One of my roommates, she just started, she's doing an MD and she's taking Hebrew classes.
Mm-hmm.
It has been really challenging for her, and I know that you completed your PhD in Hebrew class. How is the tips that you can tell her, and I can just tell her about that?
Okay.
How was the most challenging that you
Well, I
came
believe-
across while you studying for?
Okay, I believe that because you care, it has my contact information on it. Have the person call me if you want. Basically, I did it by making Hebrew part of my life. You buy Hebrew music, Messianic praise music. The Jews have some great stuff. Listen to it. Just make it part of your life. Don't just make it a language you study and forget about. That's why you can remember Spanish or all the languages you learn that you speak different than languages that you only read. Make it part of your life. That really, just in a nutshell. That works for anything you study, actually. Wherever you study, make it part of your life, you'll remember it better. Any other questions? Anything you've always wanted to know, but always been too afraid to ask.
I have a question.
All right, that's
Another
fine.
one, it's Anna. You mentioned that when you were 12 years old, you became blind, right? How was how was your feeling in that time? And were you going against, because I know that, some people sometimes they go against God or, just several questions and they just rebel it. How was your situation?
Oh, I've always been angry at the devil. I've always been wanting to get even with the devil. And that's why I'm into spiritual warfare and things like that, and dealing with people that have struggles with spiritual battles and such, so that way I can get even with the devil. I didn't have much issues because, first of all, I was going through so many problems with my family, actually, that someone losing my vision was hardly noticed because of the other problems. God had given me a lot of grace. I was listening to some Christian radio just around that time. I lost my vision at the end of the school year, so I could just waive my schoolwork. I just started learning Braille again a few months earlier. I was ready. God had His grace already there, and there's a rule. Whenever something traumatic happens to you, God has grace right there for you to help you through it, even before you understand it. Do you have time for anything else? Otherwise, I can always stick around for personal questions too.
I think the time's morning's up and I've got to get to classes. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Browne. I appreciate your
Have a
coming.
wonderful day.
And if somebody wants to say thank you all for coming, and I know you were inspired today like I was. Appreciate that very much.